In this video, I'm going to talk about things like being stuck, being unable to make a decision, feeling confused, and also self-sabotage. So those sound like quite different things, but they often have one thing in common, and that is several villagers in our internal village who can't agree on what to do. And the result can look like either some form of being stuck and unable to move forward, or it can look like self-sabotage if one of the villagers wins. So we've talked about how we have a lot of different villagers in our internal village and how these villagers are all a part of us. They're all part of who we are. And it's actually the sum of these parts, these villagers all together, that make us who we are, who we see ourselves as. So when it comes to a decision like, for example, whether or not to accept a new job, we can feel really stuck and unable to make a decision because we have different parts of us that are showing up. So we might have a villager who's like, yeah, I need change. I really want something new. I want a new challenge. I want to sink my teeth into that. And this is a really dynamic part of us, a dynamic villager who likes novelty and newness. But then we might also have another villager who feels kind of scared of making a change, of doing something new, who actually feels very much who's very much about security and comfort, and who is afraid of the unknown. And I think we all have both these parts of us. And maybe to make things even more interesting and complicated, we might also have another villager who feels really loyal to our boss and feels like, okay, I don't want to change jobs because then I'd have to tell him, I wouldn't feel comfortable, or I'll disappoint him. And that villager can also kind of hold us back. There might also be another villager who's attracted to that I'll be earning more money or I'll have more status. That villager is very concerned about those things. And so you can imagine, I've already just mentioned 4 different villagers. There can be a lot more than that. Or there can just be 2 who have different opinions. But the bottom line is that there's always different needs that are showing up and being represented by these different villagers, by these different parts of us. And this leads to being almost in like a civil war within our village where we can't really make a decision. And this actually feels very natural for us as humans to feel the sense of indecision, to have a lot of different needs, to feel confused by what is it that I really want, because there's all these different needs. And it's not easy to make these sorts of decisions because there isn't almost never a clear-cut answer that all the villagers agree, like, yes, this is what we need, this is the right thing for us. And so I think it's really important to realize that already, to realize that just being human makes it hard to move forward sometimes and to make decisions or to let go of something that's familiar, because there's almost always a villager who's very attached to comfort and to the known, because from an evolutionary perspective, what's known is actually what feels safest. And doing things that are new or different or unknown to our really old school conservative brain can feel very dangerous at first. So just knowing that, that the unknown equals danger for the brain can already be helpful, I think, to realize that, okay, I'm not alone in feeling this way or in having hesitations about what to do next. Self-sabotage is a little bit different in the sense that there's often a part of us that wants something, for example, that wants to be in a relationship. And then there's maybe another villager who's like, no, actually, what I've learned growing up is that relationships are really dangerous and I lose myself in them because I always had to take care of my mother or take care of my father, and I never was able to be in my own village, so I don't have good boundaries. And so there's this other part of us that feels like I have to protect this person, I have to protect the village by getting in the way of being in relationships. So self-sabotage is actually a very protective thing most of the time. There's usually a part of us that wants what we're trying to do, and another part that's really freaked out about it, that's scared, that has hesitation or resistance about it. And usually this makes a lot of sense based on our past experience, or simply based on the fact that we're human and that newness or change can be very scary for us. So the way to work with all of these scenarios, either being stuck or indecision or confusion or self-sabotage, is to start by really recognizing all the different villagers that are there, that are showing up. And to almost imagine seeing them all in front of us and recognizing, okay, there's a villager who really cares about comfort. There's another villager who really wants newness. There's another villager who is kind of scared of not being loyal to my boss and what that means. There's another villager who is attracted to the salary and the status. And to really kind of split that up in a very basic way of just being able to separate all the different parts of ourselves, all the different villagers. And from there, it can be a lot easier to take a step back and to recognize, there's all these different parts of me, and to see what really matters to me in this situation. What's really important to me. And this is where we bring in, again, the wise village chief or chiefess, who is the part of us who is wise and who knows what's best for us. And that can be a part of us that we've never really known or gotten to know, but that it can be really helpful to ask questions like, what really matters to me here? Or looking back 5 years from now, what would I like to say that I did in this situation? Or even it can help to think, what would I tell a friend that I really cared about in this situation? And so being able to recognize that, there's these different villagers that are showing up that all have different needs, and that there's also this other part of me that's able to notice all these different villagers, to hear them in a way, to let them express themselves, and then to decide or to make a decision to move forward that's about what really matters to me, what are my values, instead of allowing one of the villagers to just take over without really thinking about it. So again, it goes back to making a conscious choice. And I think we can only make a conscious choice when we recognize first that there is a conflict of interest between these different villagers, and then to get clear on, well, what really matters to me in this situation.